the modern public library isn't just about books, it's about community and connection and meeting people's developmental, social, and emotional needs. And so one time I heard Roddy speaking about this program that he does where he brings photography students into the community, and I immediately was like, I want Roddy to do this at DPL. So that's kind of how it started. What is my unique skill for this? I think that I spend a lot of time developing relationships with people in the community. So that is a big part of what I bring, is people come and participate in the program in part because they have a relationship with the library and a relationship with me. The other thing that I do is I work with people who have Alzheimer's and dementia, and I'm really passionate about that. I believe that even if you have Alzheimer's and dementia, you can lead a life of meaning, connection, joy, growth, purpose, if your community engages with you and helps you do that. And this is, people with Alzheimer's and dementia also participate in this program.
And I've been taking photographs for a long time, and I realized about 15 years ago that all my photography is kind of community based, whether it's out working doing documentary projects about other communities or actually my own community. And I started, I did a big project in North Dakota for 4 months. It was a big community project. And when I came back to DU after that, I decided this is what we should do. Students should be out in the community, meeting older adults. And so we started going to retirement communities and engaging in storytelling with between the students and the older adults, using photographs as kind of an icebreaker. And then I met Amy, as she described, and it just brought Amy and then Anne, and it just brought all this structure to these community projects that we're doing now. And whereas before I was just doing it on a kind of a very casual basis, but Anne and Amy brought all this structure into it and made it much more meaningful, and the engagements are much richer now, I would say.
I have my master's in teaching, and so a lot of my experience has been in teaching lots of different ages. And I left that career. Amy and I met when I was working in education, and she's the one who introduced me to Roddy, saying she wants to do this program, but because she doesn't have the background in teaching and facilitation, would I join her? And I said yes. And what I love about this program is that it matches a lot of the things that I like to do, which involves storytelling, some sort of creative arts, and that has become part of my research. So I'm always curious about why things happen. And so with this program, I'm always wondering what brings people who are different together. And in this program, it's different ages. Obviously, there are other differences, but we're seeing that art is bringing together people, and in this case, photography. And we see it over and over again. And I like that I am not a professional photographer. I get to be friends with one, but I had an undergrad in journalism and art, and so I've taken photography classes before. And so one of the things that I love doing is being the bridge to someone who never does creative arts all the way to somebody who is a professional photographer like Roddy, that this is available to everybody and anyone. And I like being the bridge of saying, hey, we can all do this. We all have cell phones, we can take photos. You don't have to have an MFA in photography to be able to do this. And so that's one of the things that I really like to do, is bring all of those pieces together.
So Amy, this is your photograph.
Where are you from, Roddy?
This is where I'm from. And the question is, where are you guys from? Not from that brown thing in the foreground. Anyway, but we're all from the same place, basically, aren't we? So that's the first. So I'm going to share some photographs. I photograph everything in my life. The things that make me happy and the things that make me sad. I use photography for everything. I use it it's mainly, I would say, 100% therapeutic, whether that's about happiness or sadness. So it's a therapeutic medium for me, photography. And it's this wonderful medium, that mirrors reality and freezes time. So reality and time are two concepts we have a great difficulty wrapping our brains around.
Yep, I think that's good.
Can we do Mickey next?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, wait. Can you just Just test real quick.
Sure, can you?
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay, just making sure it's working.
Yeah. Okay, so just to begin, like, can you introduce yourself, tell, like, you're a student, what you're studying, you know, that kind of stuff.
Hi, my name is Ari. I am a student at DU and I'm studying gender and women's studies major and a criminology minor. I'm a 4th year and I graduate next June though. What else would you like?
That's perfect. Why did you decide to take part in this class?
Because I've had a lot of success with Roddy's classes before and I love collaborating with people and getting to know their stories and who they are as people, and it's another opportunity.
What are you hoping to get out of this experience?
Well, I think that American culture is very ageist and pretty anti-elderly, and I think that, you know, the opportunity to kind of get to know people who are outside of, you know, who I wouldn't normally interact with, I think is probably a really good thing, you know. I leave campus and I forget that like younger people than me exist, right? It's so easy to like live in this bubble when you're a college student, and, you know, to get outside of that I think has some benefits.
For me, I'm hoping to get more of a newfound sense of community and being able to find even more like-minded people, or not so like-minded people, that work together. And because I love photography, and to see like what kind of stories they may tell.
Yeah, awesome. And then just our last question, what obstacles do you expect will happen when 2 different communities come together, and how do you plan to overcome these challenges?
Yeah, that's so funny. So honestly, what I'm really worried about is that the community members are going to have some antiquated views on social issues.
As usual, you would expect, you know, some different viewpoints and people trying to work together, and sometimes the viewpoints, and also if there's any sort of hearing loss, there's obviously going to be a bit lost in translation. But ways you can overcome it is just to make sure that everybody gets it clearly and everybody's listening, and that if anything goes wrong, we can get through it together.
You know, I wasn't expecting obstacles. I was looking forward. For me, I was looking forward to hearing seeing what young people are doing or learning from them. And, you know, they'll probably think of me as being old-fashioned, but they chose. You know, that's probably, they wanted to learn what that was about.
Okay, well, like today, I mean, there's and other things, there's a lot of age differences in people. Some older people are younger, and some younger people are a lot older than you, or they seem much older than they are. And sometimes that can bring about miscommunication.
Well, if today is an example, and I say we because my daughter came with me, which also makes it even more fun, but we just got along very well, and it was very interesting talking to the students that we sat with, and it's something that I haven't had much opportunity to interact with younger people except my own family. So it's just really fun to sit around and kind of compare notes and see what the students are interested in and doing.
Awesome. And then this is just our last question. So what is your first impression of like the groups and how you think this class is going to go after today?
I'm looking at you, Amy.
Well, so first impressions, I always love the students. It's always great for me to be around the college students. I don't have that opportunity that often. And every time I'm like, oh, they're lovely. They're absolutely lovely. So that was my first impression, again, I'm glad to say, of them. The community partners were game. I felt like it was, I think, pretty intimidating to walk in. We had 20 plus students who all seemed to know each other. They came in, they sat down, they started talking. So I'm excited to see what comes of that. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our last poster question. What's great about being your age? And we'll give you 5 minutes for that. All right, go. Actually, you know what? I'm going to ask Roddy really quick. Can you share your age? What's great about being your age?
Well, I have the same problem a lot of people have. Is my age is I'll be 70 in a couple of months, and it always feels strange saying that. I'm sure a lot of people agree. It's difficult to really take stock of what your age is and act your age, as it were, sort of thing. Yeah. So and it's the same problem with the body. What's that? Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde said, "The body is born young and grows old. That's life's tragedy. But the soul is born old and grows young. That's life's comedy." So that's how I feel.
You got to quote Oscar Wilde.
You got to quote Oscar Wilde.
Overall, how do you think the class has gone so far?
I think it's great. There's a lot of energy and vitality that the students bring, and it builds a lot of excitement. I notice a lot of residents who generally stay inside and don't really engage with the programming we have on site. They've been asking me, "Hey, what's going on?" We hear a lot of good things about whatever is going on Friday. I say, "Come on and join us." But I think it's important to build that sense of belonging. A lot of times, people who are older, people who are experiencing poverty, people who have traditionally felt less than or other than, they have a unique perspective that I feel doesn't really get looked at very often. A lot of times I'm working with people who are marginalized and who have never been given the option to have a voice. So to share those experiences, especially with the students, I think is really valuable. I'm also hoping that it'll give the students some perspective about what this community goes through on a regular basis.
And how did you all first hear about it?
Through Amy, who works for the Denver Public Library. My mom's doing Amy's classes that are called the Memory Cafe. My mom's got some early, what do they call it? Cognitive decline. So we are seeking out kind of what resources are available for us to participate in, mostly for her to participate in, and love things that involve her being able to bring somebody like me, one of her kids. So this just feels different because it involves this student community that has been really different and neat, and I can see it just in my mom and the way she both likes to tell her story, but she's also such an active listener to when we have the prompts about what to talk about. It just has been really sweet watching her really enjoy hearing what other kids have to say.
Truthfully, I didn't even know that this class was an intergenerational class, but the idea of being able to take a class with a professor from DU and share this time with DU students was like, yeah, I can do that. Well, I've been really loving listening to the students. Last week I sat with, Mac and Justin and, oh golly, now I can't think of her name.
Is it Audrey?
Yes, because it's not spelled the way that, I have an aunt that's Audrey, and I was like, that's not how I would have said that name. Yes. But that was really cool, and hearing their stories and what they liked and where they were from, and looking at people's pictures, and seeing, so Mac and Justin were on either side of me, and they're like, oh, here, we'll just show you how this works. And then Audrey was telling me about, which I haven't actually tried yet, is it Real Time? Real something.
Be Real?
Be Real. Takes the 2 pictures, and I was like, ooh, that could be cool.
What does community mean to you, and why is it important to be part of communities?
I think community is just a place where people like have just like commonalities and can share amongst those commonalities. It's important because I mean, like I think everyone needs an outlet at one point or another. Whether that just be an individual to talk to, or if people work better with groups. I think it's really important for people to have that type of support from those people.
Some of my biggest takeaways, I think, are how important communities are in this world, and to each individual's like mental health and happiness and well-being, and how vital they are for support.
Community for me is about finding like-minded, I want to say like-minded people, but maybe it's not everybody like-minded. It's about finding people who you share space with, whether or not you share their beliefs or values, but having a space to have a conversation, and whether the conversation is deep and about politics or whatever, it doesn't have to be that. It can also just be about art and what makes you tick, and what your stories are, and what are the things that you're proud of, what are the things you're worried about. So I think community is just finding a group, I would say like-minded, in that people that are open to sharing about themselves, and sharing with other people, and feeling safe to do that, having a safe space to do that in.
Community reminds me that I'm part of the human race, and that I benefit from loving other people and being loved by other people. So, community helps me grow as a person, and allows me to help other people too.
My community of choice and of circumstance is the disability community. I have a disability myself. I have been a disability rights activist, about 42 years, give or take. And my 3 adult children all have disabilities, as does my granddaughter. And so I am forced by circumstances to be a member of the community, but we embraced it. So for us, it's disabled with a big old capital D.
What is one of the most interesting things you've learned so far from one of the community members in the class?
Well, Robin and Chase both kind of continuously harp on the fact that, I mean, like, it'll whatever happens will happen, and don't worry about it too much. I think as a college student, we're all worried about, like, what am I gonna do with my life? Like starting family, starting work, careers, all that. And just like they've kind of brought that viewpoint of like, it's all gonna work out no matter what happens, really. And just kind of like let everything play how it does.
I learned from Robin. She used to play rugby and for like many, many years. And she I feel like I've acted throughout my life that whenever I get injured or anything like that, I don't really take care of it. And Robin was the same exact way. And she said that after 20, 30 years of that going on, everything finally caught up to her once she started to age, and she needed to get multiple surgeries. She needed to get a hip taken out, I think. So yeah, I guess that your prior life it catches up to you at some point.
Well, what do I want to be when I grow up? I don't have as many years in front of me as you guys do, but I feel like I have as much life in front of me for the years that I have, if that makes sense. I really promised myself when I turned 50 that the answer would always be yes, unless there was a good, strong reason for it to be no, and that I would try something new, at least one thing new every single year. I loved my folks, but they took early retirement, and although they continued to volunteer in the same communities that they had always been active in, they didn't learn anything new. I wanted to work in the nonprofit sector, and I wanted to work with people groups who were underserved and or misunderstood. And looking back, I had language that was not exactly respectful as I was planning on doing that, but I've learned and I continue to learn. I mean, my latest challenge in the last few years has been learning to use appropriate pronouns and respect people's identity for who they say they are.
You know, no matter how old we get, we're all human, we're all gonna goof around, we're all gonna be silly, and we're all gonna have like a different perspective on life, but one that ultimately is kind of the same.
Conversation that Roddy, you and I had, I think last week, about what a person with a camera does to a room. And this is an interesting story. My daughter's graduating next week. I'm gonna not cry saying that, college. And my husband and I want to have something special for her with photos or some kind of thing. And so we've been talking about family photos, and so he's gone through photos that his mom has taken and all the ones that we've taken, and he was like, he doesn't want any of the photos that his mom took because she's takes too many. You're not smiling enough. No, you know, like very staged, and none of those are the ones that he wants to put in this photography, you know, these family photos. And I think that your photos reflect how you communicate with the people that you take pictures of. Because I think of someone who's trying to control it, like, move your chin this way and that way, you have a different expression. So I want to hear more, yes.
I'm going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate to what you just said. If we think of photos as capturing an aspect, as you two mentioned, a perspective that a person has on life at that moment, then we also want to capture the history of photography, which is we need to stage this because this is the only time in our lives that we're going to be able to show the world who we are and what this moment in time is about for us. And staging is important to that if you're only going to have one opportunity.
I want you to come back in 20 minutes and I want you to pick something that you want to try out here, whether it's compositional or if it's more autobiographical. Talk with your group. It's beautiful out here. Maybe Roddy has some suggestions on how to take photos when the sun is really bright. Look for shade. Look for where the light is.
I'm kind of drawn to taking pictures of like the ambulance and like the different kind of like buildings or objects. And then I think at one point we all kind of started gravitated towards taking pictures of other people, which I thought was just a really interesting thing that we all originally went out with like, oh, I'll take pictures of like the leaves or like the trees, and then we ended up just like taking silly pictures of each other and like trying to take pictures of each other, taking pictures at the same time. So I just thought that was interesting.
Why do you think that is?
I think this like kind of class that we've been all taking together is really, at least for me, it's like made me remember like that sometimes it's pretty easy just to connect with people. And so like I think we're all just kind of getting drawn back to like the ease of that connection, and that because we're all here doing something like that we like and that we love and that it's like similar, that we're all just having fun with it.
Now, a bit of symmetry, please. And nobody's hiding in the back there. Essie, you're not hiding. Would you mind coming forward a wee bit? Okay.
Yeah. No.
Okay. No
Roddy
hiding.
used to be a wedding photographer, so.
Who was?
Wait a minute. Are you going to be in the picture?
No, he's not.
Roddy.
Hang on a second.
What was your guys' final impression of the class, and did the class go the way you expected?
Do you want all of us to answer every question?
My final impression of the class was beautiful. It was beautiful, and it's always beautiful. And for whatever reason this year, Anne and Roddy and I, it was a little more challenging on our end, getting things organized. But I think from the perspective of the students and the participants, it still worked. It worked amazingly, and some of the reflections shared today were so moving and powerful and sweet, and really showed that people got what we wanted them to get from it.
No, it makes you realize that it doesn't really matter, because we worry about the logistics of,
right,
you know, getting the cupcakes and the catering and the napkins and the, but it almost doesn't matter to everybody. It seems like the most important thing is the community aspect, the people coming together who don't normally come together.
I think something that we're going to reflect on, this was really the first time we've had people with different abilities in the class. And I don't know that we did the best job accommodating people, designing the class in a universal way so everybody could access it completely and thoroughly in a way that worked for them. So I really want to think about how accessible it is and how well we make sure that every single individual who participates in the class has a great, meaningful experience. I think it wasn't that I learned something, but I was reminded of something. This is our 6th year doing this, and so now a lot of what we understand about intergenerational connection and communication and photography, it's kind of, we know it, like but to see other people learn it and be reminded of it was really powerful. To hear people talk about the importance of connecting across generations, the importance of photography, to see people learning that anew was really wonderful.
I think what I heard today was people live in age-segregated communities. So college students only hang out with college students, and people our age or older only hang out with older people. And so it was really fun for them to make new friends of different ages. And even though I'm running this program, I think I could even do more with intergenerational relationships.
Okay. Was there a moment that stood out to you as exemplifying what this class stands for throughout any of the weeks?
I'm not going to get the names right, but maybe was it Ari and Connie? Was that the moment that I think we have almost every time? So Ari is a student and Connie is a community member, and I believe Ari was talking about working with neurodivergence or some kind of different ability, and really being vulnerable about this is something that I've struggled with. And then Connie, the community member, says, me too. That I have that same struggle. The two of them were able to talk, and this happens every time we do this, where randomly a student and a community member share something very personal. It's not just, oh, did you grow up in Illinois? I did too. It's more, I'm sharing a piece of myself that's very vulnerable, and another person says, yeah, I have that too, and you wouldn't have known if the one person had not mentioned it.
It's like a magic combination: photography, intergenerational connection, creative engagement,
storytelling,
vulnerability, storytelling. It works every time. It's the perfect recipe.
Yeah, everybody has a story.
And then just the last question. So we were wondering, so the pictures that all the student and community members took, what was like their theme? Like what was their project that they were supposed to do?
So we made it pretty broad. This year, we wanted them to work on just a few technical skills, like thinking about color and light and composition, where are things placed, what's the framing, but we also talked about what makes for a meaningful photograph. And so when we gave them the assignment, we said, we just want you to apply something that you've learned in this class in your photograph. And so if you look at all the photographs, you can see lots of different ways that people interpreted. Some you could tell were so meaningful about the people in them, and others were playing with color or light or a little bit more abstract.
And although we gave some parameters, I get the sense that most people chose their favorite photograph. Even if it wasn't taken during the class, people wanted to share something that was important to them. And it would have been interesting to hear all the stories. I sort of regret not having enough time to hear the backstories behind every photograph.
This community means a lot to me, even when I felt kind of lost and kind of like stuck in life, like not really sure what I'm doing or what's going to happen. You guys were always there for me, and I wish I could do more of this, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, no blinking.